Hi everyone! Good evening, Pure Butang, Assalamualaikum, and magandang gabi sa lahat. Guys, ano ba ito? His Runaway Wife, Chapter 12. Kung hindi nyo pa po napakinggan sa umpisa, mayroon na pong ibang chapter na nauna. So, Chapter 12, His Runaway Wife, Chapter 12. Damian's dad was an exceptional man. Apart from his career, he was a family man and loved his sons and wife. He had always been caring towards me and did his best to make me feel included. Despite his wife's effort to do the opposite, he already had Walker's pediatrics when I met Damian, and knowing Damian, I knew he took great pride in taking care over his father's clinic. So, how do you like being boss? I asked Damian as he parked outside the building. A little harder than I thought, he admitted as he turned off the car. But I love my job. It is the one thing I know how to do, right? I nodded, looking away. He got out of the car and I watched as he walked around it and opened the door for me. He offered me his hand. I took it and he helped me out of the car. Once outside, he didn't let go of my hand. Instead, he intertwined his finger through mine. It was so natural, as if he did that every day. I looked away so he would not see my smile. Wow, it looks so different, I said as I looked up at the clinic. So the building was a beige color, which was different. The last time I saw it was smaller and brown. Now it looked bigger and I like this color better. One top of the building facing the street was the word Walker in white letters with pediatrics next to it in colorful and curly letters. Yeah, we extended last year, Damian said as we walked. Well, it looks good. There were trees and small bushes by the entrance, making it look friendlier and more appealing. I caught sight of Damian and I walking on the glass door. There we, there we were, holding hands. We almost looked like a sane, happy married couple. Damian's hand felt good against mine. I felt something warm inside of me at his touch. I didn't want him to let go. He opened the door with his free hand and I walked in with him behind me. It was bright inside. There was a waiting room to the left where two little boys were playing with building blocks. Their mother, I guessed, was sitting down with a magazine in her hands. There was a front desk across the room and a young girl sat behind it, with a computer and papers on the desk. Welcome to Walker's. She was smiling when she looked up and saw Damian. Oh, good morning, Dr. Walker. She looked at me in curiosity, her blue eyes glancing at our hands. Hello, Wendy, Damian greeted. Any message? No, right now, doctor, she smiled. I'm sorry, is she your girlfriend? Girlfriend. Damian glanced at me with a smile. This is my wife, Rebecca. Hi, I said awkwardly. Oh, Wendy looked surprised. I didn't know you were married. That's because I don't like to talk about my personal life with my employees, Damian said. He sounded polite, but I knew there was a message behind it. Mind your own business. Right? Sorry. Wendy turned red. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Walker. Same to you, Wendy, I said after a moment. I had not been called Mrs. Walker in such a long time. It was weird to hear it for the second time today. Well, I'll be in my office, Damian said, then turned to the left and walked down a hallway. The sound of the boys' laugh diminished as sorry, we went into a door to the left. His office was bright because of the sunlight coming in through the two big windows. The walls were white and there was a black desk with a laptop, one chair behind it and two on the other side of the desk. There was a bookcase to the right side with a book and a black leather couch to the side. The man let my hand go and went to sit behind the desk. He looked at me in wonder, his hands crossed on his chest. I like it here, I said after a moment as I looked around. It's very open. He half smiled. Sorry about Wendy. My staff here are great with the clients and kids, but they all love a good gossip. He chuckled. She's probably telling all the nurses right now. I laughed as I walked closer to his desk. What a disappointment it's going to be for all of them to learn you are married. Sorry. He looked up at me. Rebecca, I didn't tell them. Stop, I smiled. I get it, Damian. You don't have to explain it to me. I paused. I just don't know if it was a good idea to tell them I'm your wife when I trailed off. When we don't know what's going on to happen to us. His feeling guilty was familiar to me now. The man had not told his employees he was married because then he would have to explain what happened to his wife. The man stood up and walked around the desk. I turned around, leaning against his desk as he stood in front of me with his hands in his pocket. He looked at me for a moment and I stared back at him. I loved his faint 5 o'clock. It made him look more mature, more handsome. He took a step forward. You are my wife, Rebecca, he said in a low, sexy voice. I pressed my thighs together as my body responded to him. I looked away, a smile playing on my lips. You intimidated me when you look at me like that, I whispered. You turn me on when you look at me. Like that was more accurate, but I was not about to tell him that. He walked closer until he was inches away from me. Damian, I whispered, resting my forehead on his chest. I was defeated. My body wanted him, and it was exhausting trying to fight against it. He took his hands out of his pocket and placed them on my waist. His touch made my body tense even more. Rebecca, he whispered my name in that low voice of his. I took a deep breath as I raised my head slowly to look at him. His raised his right hand and caressed my left cheek. His eyes roamed all over my face down to my lips, my neck before he looked at me in the eyes. You are my wife, he said again, more possessively this time. He pressed his body against mine as he leaned in until his nose touched mine. He stayed there for a second. I closed my eyes as my arms traveled to his shoulder. I put my hands behind his neck as he leaned in and pressed his lips against mine. My whole body melted against his. He wrapped his arms around me as his lips began to move against mine. He kissed me slowly, his lips caressing mine as if I were made of out of glass. I pushed him closer to me, my body burning with desire. I had not felt this way in a long time. I had not wanted a man like I wanted the man in that moment. I wanted to feel his hands in every part of my body. How had I gone all this time without his touch? How could I have forgotten how good, how right it felt to be in his arms? He began to deepen the kiss by using his tongue. It, it became desperate. He kissed me as if he had not kissed me in a long time. I felt wanted by my husband. The man kissed me desperately as if he knew that second later there would be a knock on the door. The knock was faint beat. We heard it and then the door opened the in a second. The man and I pulled apart. I straightened up, but the man was still hovering over me. I looked at him, his lips were swollen, and I felt a strain feeling of pride knowing it was because of our kiss. He looked angry to have been interrupted. His breathing was rapid. Damn, whoever was talking, stop. I continued to hide my face with Damian. I licked my swollen lips as I tried to catch my breath. I am so sorry. I didn't know you were with someone. It was a woman's voice. Damian sighed, then turned around. You have to stop doing that, Karen. He sounded annoyed. At the sound of her name, I looked up and saw Karen standing by the door. I had not seen her in years. Since Damian was in medical school before we even got married, she looked older and her hair was longer. She had that um look going on. She was wearing black dress pants with a white button-down blouse and a white coat lab. Right, she was a doctor like Damian. I didn't know how I felt about seeing her again. I'm sure I would feel it I saw her in the store or something rather than in my husband's clinics as his fellow doctor. I kept my face neutral as I crossed my hands on my chest casually. I could tell she was not happy to see me either. I hoped she knew she had interrupted something. Rebecca, she cleared her throat. I didn't know you were here. I nodded. Hello, Karen. Karen's eyes moved to Damian. I just wanted to let you know they're waiting for you in the room 3. Didn't nurses do that? I suddenly felt jealous at the thought of there being something between Damian and Karen. They were together once, and what did they say about being around an ex? Your feelings came back. I'll be right there. Thank you, Damian said, more calm down. Okay, Karen nodded. Then she walked out without another word. Damian turned around and looked at me. I hate that we were interrupted. I smiled. You should go to your appointment. He put his hands around me, then kissed me again. Short and sweet. I am not done with you, he said as he pulled away. He walked to the coat rack he had in the corner behind his desk and took off his jacket and put on his white lab coat. I looked down at my feet. I think I am done, though seeing your ex was sort of a turn off. He froze for a second, then continued to adjust his lab coat. It's not like that. So you're gonna tell me that there was not anything between you two before you saw me again? He clenched his jaw. I have to go. He leaned in and planted a kiss on my lips. I'll be back. I bit my lip as I watched him walk out. He didn't deny it. I took a deep breath, then sat down on one of the chairs. Okay, Damian was with Karen, I was with Julian. We were even now. I stared out the window. Had they been sleeping together? I may be dating Julian, but I haven't slept with anyone else but Damian. Part of me wished I would have now. The part of me that kept imagining Damian in bed with Karen naked. Damian had not admitted it, but I knew there had been something going on between them. It would explain the look on Karen's face when she saw me earlier. The image of Damian and Karen naked in bed was becoming too real now, and I hated it. So, wait lang guys ha. Chapter 13. I roamed through the books Damian had on the shelves in his office. They were mostly medical books and dictionaries, except for some football magazine he kept on the right side corner. He used to be a big football fan back when we met. He actually influenced my like for football. I didn't care about football before Damian. Now I found myself watching the games whenever I could. I had a preference ever over the Green Bay Packers mostly because of the crush I had on Aaron Rodgers, though I genuinely liked to watch football. It was entertaining. I reached and pulled a magazine out. A piece of paper fell down on the floor and I reached down to pick it up. When I looked at it, I realized that it was not a piece of paper. It was a picture of Damian and I. It was back when we were began dating, when I was in college and he was in medical school. It was a selfie. Our cheeks were touching as we smiled at the camera. I remembered taking this picture, and if I remembered correctly, I turned the picture over and smiled. On the back of it, I had written the words, I love you, Damian, and drawn a small heart next to his name. I felt a knot build in my throat as I stared at our happy faces. We were so young, so, so unaware of what was going to happen to us, of what I was going to do to us, what Damian and I had. It was real. It was love. He was everything I've always wanted, someone with a career, someone who cared about me, someone who respected me. His mom never thought I deserved him, and maybe she was right. After what I did to him, I'm sure she hated me even more now. I didn't want to see that woman again. I heard the door open behind me and I turned around, thinking it was the man. Instead, it was Karen. Sorry, she looked embarrassed when she saw me. The man is right. I need to stop doing that, she said, then pointed to a cabinet Damian had next to his desk. I just need a patient file. Of course, I said when I realized she was asking me for permission, as if she didn't always enter his office without asking. I was sure she did. I watched as she walked in and went to the cabinet, opening one of the drawers with a key in her keychain. I looked down at the picture again. We took that months after Damian and Karen broke up. I squinted my eyes at Damian. Did you guys get back together? Did you sleep with her? I asked him silently in my head. So how have you been? I looked up at Karen a little startled. I had forgotten she was in the room for a second. I cleared my throat. I've been good, and you? Great, she nodded as she clutched the folder on her chest. So, are you staying? I didn't say anything for a moment. Wouldn't you like to know? I wanted to say that, but I bit my tongue. I had no right to harass her. Or maybe I did have the right, or the man's wife, but I was ashamed. I should feel ashamed for what I did right. I was selfish. I left Damian. I gave him up. I could not expect him to just stop his life when I left. I guess it never occurred to me that Damian would get with another woman in my absence. He had always been such a loyal man. I never had my dab with him, but he had a history with Karen. They went through medical school together. They dated for more than a year. What did they say about having your ex around? Something about old feelings coming back. No, I finally said, looking down at my feet, then looking up again. I'm only here for the week. Let her wonder until what day I will be here. Good God, I was such a child. She'll probably count the hours until I left, though she'll count the hours until I'm gone. The hours until she has Damian by herself. I look at the desk and the image of the session with Damian earlier came flooding through my head. Did he kiss her like that too? Touch her like that? Turn her on like that? Oh, Karen said. She hesitated and then took a few steps towards me as if she were going to tell me a big secret and didn't want anyone to hear, though we were the only two in the room. Listen, Damian. He was not doing good for the longest time. He was barely starting to. She stopped, then looked at me. Care about him, Rebecca. And if your intention is to leave him again, then don't play with him. Don't get his hopes up. I stared at her, feeling angry, sad, and shameful all at the same time. Who the hell was she to tell me this. It was none of her business. One thing was for me so to understand that I left the road clear for her and Damian, but now she was butting into our marriage or whatever was left of it. The other part of me understood that she was right. I could not tell if she was telling me this because she genuinely cared about Damian, though I was sure she did anyway, or because she was trying to guilt me into staying away from him. Maybe both. If your intention is to leave him again, the way she had said it, as if she had the right to protect him, to defend what was her, to defend him from me. I felt anger start to build up inside of me as I glared at Karen. I care about him, Rebecca. I bet you do. Karen, I bet you do. I crossed my arms in my chest as I straightened, trying to look intimidating. How long have you been sleeping with my husband? I was not thinking straight. I was angry, but more than anything, I was jealous. Stupid jealousy making me do stupid things. Why could not I just keep my mouth shut? Karen looked shocked by my question and she didn't say anything for a second. Rebecca, before she could finish, the door opened and the man walked in. He stopped at the doorway. He looked at me, then at Karen, then back at me. Is everything okay? He asked slowly. Yes, Karen answered. Just needed a file, she said, then walked out without another word. I turned around and slipped the picture inside the magazine, then put it back in its place. When I turned around, Damian was looking at me cautiously. How was your appointment? I asked him calmly. My anger was quickly dissolving now that Karen had left the room. Good, he said as he walked into the room. He opened a drawer on his desk and put a folder inside. I just need to do something really quick and then we can leave. I knew that. Take your time. He sat down and opened his laptop, then began to type. I walked to the couch and sat down. I decided to check on Alexa. It felt like I had her abandoned. I promised to spend some time with her tomorrow. I texted her and asked her how she was. She answered a few minutes later telling me she was at the beach watching Aaron playing volleyball with his friends. At least she was having fun, while I was over here tormenting my husband's ex-girlfriend. I looked at the man after a moment. He was concentrated on something in his computer. I care about him, Rebecca. Karen's words replayed in my head and I felt jealousy begin to build up again. I hated that she wanted to tell me what to do. As if Damian was hers, as if she were his protector. There was a reason why she felt the liberty to tell me that the thought and that infuriated me even more. For a moment, I didn't care that I left Damian. He was my husband, not Karen's. He belonged to me, not her. Without thinking, I stood up and walked behind Damian's desk. I placed my hand on his shoulder, then before he had time to react, I pulled my skirt up so I could throw my leg over and sit on his lap facing him. Rebecca, he looked surprised as he put his hands on my waist. I placed my hands on his cheeks and leaned in to kiss him. He let out a soft moan when I went down to kiss his neck. I kissed him until I ran out of breath. It was like my anger was turning into lust and it made me want to somehow mark Damian to Karen, and everyone else would know he was mine. I felt his hands tighten around me, then he buried his face in my neck. I felt his lips against my skin and I closed my eyes for a second. Damian was mine. He was my husband. I opened my eyes, then leaned in until my lips were close to his ear. Have you been sleeping with Karen? I felt his body tense and I pulled away. to look at him. He seems confused by my question, or maybe he was just surprised and he was trying to come up with a lie. After a moment of him not saying anything, I took a deep breath, then tried to stand up, but his hands held my hips in place, making me stay on his lap. Why are you asking me that? He asked, his eyes searching mine, but I would not look at him. Did she tell you something? I looked at him. Just answer my question. Tell me if she told you something. For what? So you could go tell her to keep all of your dirty secrets? He looked at me and didn't say anything for a moment. I wished the phone would ring or that someone would knock on the door so he would have to let me go. I knew Damian and I had to talk. We had to talk about what happened 3 years ago. We had to define our relationship so far. He had not reproached me anything. He was being nice, but I knew he was only doing it so I would not leave. I knew that there was a bomb that was ticking and it was ready to explode any moment. Let me go, I told him, looking into his brown eyes. No, he answered, his big hand still gripping my hips. Damian, we need to talk. No, not right now, he said in a low voice. He raised his right hand and stroked my cheeks. Please. I bit my lip, suddenly feeling guilty for even demanding anything from him. Jealousy got the best of me. I put my arms around Damian's neck and hugged him, suddenly feeling sad. I think we both knew that it was over. Once we had that conversation, it would be the end. Damian held me tightly, burying his face in my neck as if he knew what I was thinking. Silence fell over us for the longest time as he held onto each other, trying to search the old Damian and Rebecca that fell in love 4 years ago. Guys, hanggang doon lang muna guys. Tomorrow naman, try ko lang po pala. Kapag may ano lang ako net. And thank you for listening. Sa nag-request nito, thank you. At sa mga nag-request, since tapos na po yung binasa kong isang story, so my next story po. So, doon po, malalaman mo po kung sa yung request mo na po yun. Thank you very much. Thank you sa mga viewers ko. And yun lang naman po. Sorry guys, medyo mga good night.